Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mangum Talk Star Wars. I'm your host, Lee. I'm here. I'm joined by co-host Jamie. Jamie, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great as always. I'm here to be the ray of sunshine on this as you and or Spencer when he's here. Tell me why everything I love is actually not great.
Yeah, we won't bury the lead. Spencer not here, but he has committed to episode 5. Now, followers of the channel know that that still means there's only a % chance he'll join for episode 5, but there is a possibility that we're going to get Spencer for episode 5, and that will be exciting to hear his take. I can tell you it's not wholly different than mine, in that he is like moderately to lukewarm, like negative, if that makes sense. He's like a 3 or a 4 on it, and that's kind of where I'm starting to land. I'm pretty low on my enthusiasm this week, Jamie. I'm gonna need you to pull me out of it.
So my take on his take is that he feels exactly the same as you do, except he's less committed to balance
Podcast.
but podcast but also less committed to kind of being the middle voice, being the moderator between the two, being the see both sides of it, and it's just a little bit more like, okay, I'll be the heel this week. That's okay. So I think
Yeah,
he's
and
just
I'm
leaning into his opinion as you're listening to me and trying to slow roll your judgment, which I appreciate.
well. It's difficult for me to go too ham with negative takes about Star Wars because, as you know, longtime followers of the podcast know, like I have always been positive about Star Wars. I've always enjoyed it. It was my entry to fantasy. Like it was the very first fantasy story that I ever had any exposure to. I never read The Hobbit as a kid. I didn't know Golden Compass. I didn't know any of these stories. I knew Star Wars at a pretty young age and Star Wars space fantasy, right? Like that's been my entry point. And now fantasy is the most important pop culture thing in my life. I constantly read fantasy books. I'm into fantasy television. I podcast about fantasy. I go to fantasy cons. I play fantasy TCGs. I love it. So it's really hard for me to be too negative about it. But I got to tell you, this episode more than any other was the death knell for me, which was I was just really bored. I was really bored, and I found myself not caring. I struggled to get the notes in. I did get the notes. I do have the notes for a recap, but I'm excited to hear you get me into these characters, Jamie. I'm just not into them.
It was fine.
Oh no! Oh no! Down we go. Down goes the ship. Oh no, we're so negative.
I knew like Lady Whistledown, being very bland in my response would actually tell you more about my fall than anything I could actually say.
Wait a
I'm
second.
not.
Hold on. Was that a Bridgerton reference that I just heard from you?
Yes,
I love Bridgerton. I'm a
I
massive fan.
I do too. And they had an entire Doctor Who episode about Bridgerton.
Oh, shout out. Yeah, I
I
won't spoil
know.
anything about the newest season, but it's a lot of fun. I after the first season, I bought a Bridgerton t-shirt that had
Yeah.
the couple from season 1 on it and would routinely rock it at like sporting events and like wherever I could like rock it, thinking that I would like prompt a discussion with other guys. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted some guy to challenge me on it so I could be like, "Oh, you mean like really intense genre storytelling that is compelling and well acted and well produced in a alternate reality." Yeah, that
I
show
mean,
fucking
I've
rules.
only seen about 2/3 of the episodes because this is the show that like my wife can watch without me, and she doesn't then have to rewatch and go back. But if it's on in the house, I'm gonna gravitate into that room, and I'm gonna like
It's good. It's
get,
just good.
keep it going if I leave the room. But maybe tell me what I missed.
Can I give you like one more take on Bridgerton? I promise we'll get to Star Wars. Is the thing that I push when I talk about Bridgerton is genres are genres for a reason. They're genres
Mhm.
because they elicit particular types of human emotions that are identifiable through history that people have liked for decades, generations.
Mhm.
Romance is one of those. It is okay for a show to simply be a romance. It doesn't have to be a romance and a comedy and an action. You don't need The Rock swinging from like a skyscraper in the first 15 minutes with a love story at the end. I'm okay with just romance. And this show like is such a throwback. It goes, you know what we are? We're a romance. That's what the show is, and for good reason. It's a very identifiable emotion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a romance and a drama, but you're right. Like that's kind of drama's more a flavoring of anything. Like it's not. If you said something was drama and didn't describe the genre any further, that doesn't really tell you anything. It's more of a mood than a genre almost. So anyway,
Dramatic
like
elements. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like uh,
All
I
right.
agree
Acolyte.
completely.
We're on the Acolyte.
Acolyte,
Episode 4, Acolyte.
the acolyte.
The Acolyte. It's called Day. This is the name of the episode. We start with Kelnaka. That's exciting.
Yeah, he's great in this episode.
I was teeing you up.
I love all the screen time that he gets.
How are we going to do this? I'm not into it.
I was so excited about him because Wookiees are fun. Jedi Wookiees are rare and fun. Grumpy old ex-Jedi or disaffected current Jedi in the woods who can dispense wisdom and critical analysis of the Jedi. That's a trope that I am here for all day. I think I've
Did
talked
you
about
have the
Joe
thought?
Lee. What's that?
Did you have the thought that we haven't seen a Wookiee cook since the Star Wars Holiday Special?
We haven't seen a lot of Wookiee things since the holiday special. We haven't seen a Wookiee orgasm since the holiday special. It doesn't mean we need to go back there, sir.
Hey-o. Yeah, we did see one of those. Yeah, the Star Wars Holiday Special. A lot of fun.
Sorry.
Two coughing fits.
Remember, you just made me revisit some repressed memories.
Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah. So
for anybody who didn't see
we're gonna.
We did an episode of that, and instead of watching it and then talking about it because we realized we were unwilling to dedicate that much of our life to it, we did a live watch, not on purpose because we thought that was the best way to do it, but we didn't want to watch it separately. That was just a thing we were unwilling to do with our lives, and I think it was a good choice.
In an effort to try to get jazzed about Star Wars, I wore my Luke with Grogu in season 2 of Mandalorian shirt today and trying to get excited about Star Wars, and I'm still not there yet. But we're going to get through the recap. We're going to do this.
All right. Go ahead and recap. Yeah, I think every show should have a slightly grumpy, wholesome, quiet-spoken Wookiee Jedi who gets lots of screen time and can be used in future episodes.
We cut to the younglings training, including the Padawan we know, Jecki. More on Jecki later, but it does seem like Jecki is the smartest Padawan in the history of Padawans, knows more than the Masters. Zero flaws in this Padawan's training. Hey, can somebody please move this up to Jedi Knight, please? Can Jecki please make Jedi Knight? She's smarter than the entire cast.
Well, if the show so far is to be believed, she's going to die next episode, so we shouldn't get too attached to her.
Should make Jedi Knight first. Osha's there to say goodbye. Back to May and her partner, Chimere. I think Qimir is the name. I'm going to say Chimere. They're on Kofar, and he mentions that finding Kelnaka was hard. So May is there.
Jason Mendoza. Yeah.
He's there. He's there to find.
Same actor from The Good Place. I don't know the character's name. He's the apothecary fraud, and he's Jason Mendoza. And I'm waiting for him to throw a Molotov cocktail. He may, because he was at the bar. He was mixing things. Yeah, he reminds her that she needs to kill the Wookiee. You made a deal, I think, for trying to actually start to parse through the show and what the story of the show is telling us. One of the important things that get covered this episode is this back and forth about what we discussed the first couple episodes, which was her requirement to kill a Jedi without a weapon, and where that came from, why that's part of her to-do. Yeah. So my favorite thing in this episode is actually everything we get from May. Every scene that May is in is worth it for me. Either as I get something out of it, I like what I'm seeing, I'm learning things about them, they're surprising me, or even when they're not really explaining things, they're at least addressing things in a way that makes me confident that they're going to address them more, and the things I want to address, like the whole, can you just grab their lightsaber and do that? Like, he is, I'll talk more about him in a minute, but that was kind of my idea, is that what it means? Killing them without a weapon means taking their weapon and using it against them. And he's asking, is that it? And her answer is, I'm not going to want to talk about it right now. But I think it made me feel really good that, it means that I'm picking up the things that are being handed on a silver platter to me by the writers. But my brain's going in the direction that they had seeded, which it's nice. I mean, it's like, when foreshadowing pays off, it feels good in our brains. And I feel like they've given hints that these are the thoughts that we're kind of expected to have, and some of them will be right and wrong, but they're specifically then saying the people on screen are thinking that too. We're all smart together in a way that part worked for me great. I loved hearing them kind of talk about it, and I want more details. And if you want to talk about what they actually say, go ahead. But I'm interested in hearing more about what her deal was, what he is giving her, or why is it any 4 Jedi? This is one thing I don't know. Maybe is it any 4 Jedi or these 4 Jedi?
I think it's probably these 4, because those are the 4 that were on the planet when the fire started, right? I mean, it's got that seems
well. I thought that she wanted to kill those 4 for revenge, but it's that she made a deal with him that she would kill four or these
It
four.
just seems
So
convenient that it would be the same number.
yeah, but if it might have been because of that is the four, but as we find out later, she fails to kill one of them. So does that mean that her deal is actually broken? Did her saying that she intended to break it, was that enough to break it? Or is he rolling in and being like, I still own you and you have two left?
I really like that they spent the most of the flashback making sure that we understood that May was dark, had really destructive impulses early on, just to have her do a complete babyface turn this episode and be like, "No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not. That's not my thing. I'm my loyalty is to my sister."
I loved it. That was my
I
best part,
don't
actually.
I don't understand these characters. I just don't understand them.
So it completely works for me, and I'm not going to tell you that it works
Okay.
so well that I have an answer that'll convince you, but it works for me great. It was a surprise. I did not see it coming. I don't think it was telegraphed in any way, shape, or form. It was
Nope.
shown that her sister affected her. It was said that she's kind of doing this for revenge for her sister, that she thinks that they killed her sister and that that's why she's doing all this. So the idea that, does your sister being alive change anything? He's saying it doesn't, because you still made a deal and you still have to do what you have to do, and doesn't actually change anything. And she said, "Oh, of course you're right," until she had an opportunity to be more honest. Said, "No, it changes everything. Basically, I was doing this for revenge. I was doing this because I was alone. I had no other options. I had no other family. I had no other people. I have someone. The purpose for my revenge is at least not nearly as strong as I thought it was. And my hopelessness and isolation is not nearly as bad as I thought it was. She's out there. She missed me clearly on purpose. So she's not my enemy. I can find her. I don't care. Like, I would rather be with her, or I'd rather support her, or I'd rather make amends or something." So here's what I am really interested in, and this was I on purpose now get insight from my wife, because she has good thoughts that I share with you all, some of which I might just take credit for, but I'll say
For
this.
sure. Yeah.
She has a theory, which is a little bit out there, but she
do the podcast with her next week. Just bring her in.
Oh, well, I'll tell you about the offer, maybe. Her theory is that they're going to have May and Osha switch, not a 12th night they trade places and pretend to be each other thing, where Osha is the acolyte and is going to be hunting down Saul, and May is going to be trying to save her. Because and I didn't really buy it at first, but I thought about it more. These are two sisters who had a lot in common and a lot different, and they each thought that their whole family was dead. May was raised by the Sith and were told, "Your family is dead and the Jedi killed you." Osha was raised by the Jedi and was told, "Your sister accidentally killed herself." They're going to find out. May find out, "Oh, she's not dead. You've been lying to me the whole time, people that I've trusted. I'm going to turn against you now because you betrayed me my entire life. You probably knew she was alive and lied." And the Jedi, they didn't know May was alive, but they know whatever it is they did, which is still being kept a secret from the audience, but whatever they did is going to be a betrayal and kept secrets from Osha. So Osha is betrayed by the group she tagged along with, and May's betrayed by the group she tagged along with, and so they each turn on the teams that they had been lied to.
Yeah, I mean, so you sold me that could happen.
It could happen. I actually don't think it will happen, but it's a neat idea. And now's the time to talk about that before it gets proven right or wrong. But it's a neat idea. It goes in with, how important is it to her that her sister's alive? Yeah, she's always been slightly psychopath. She's always been drawn more towards the dark side. And she is violent and she is a murderer. But she's had 16 years of stuff happening. She's not the same as she was back then. And everything that she's been since then has been built on, I'm alone. I only have my revenge and hatred.
Okay, so the piece that she was doing this because it was revenge for her sister, and that was the only reason.
And
may have been
loneliness, no choices, no family.
Maybe all that was fleshed out before this episode and was clear to people. It was not clear to me, like in watching it. Like, I mean, if you had presented
in her whole life.
Right, but
The bartender was her number two friend in the world.
right, but you presented it as like this was her entire motivation, so therefore the switch makes sense. I did not know that that was her entire motivation. Like, I still thought maybe she wanted to learn from this guy and develop the power that this guy could give her, and like the sort of traditional Star Wars archetype of Jedi apprentice, like or master apprentice. So I wasn't aware of that as a primary or complete motivator for her. As far as the idea of them switching, here, let me, it's going to shock you. I'm going to draw a wrestling analogy. So sometimes in wrestling, the really smart fans will like what we call fantasy book things and go, oh, well, if Roman came back into this and Seth did that and did this, and they create these like long-term fantasy bookings that make a lot of sense if you're a wrestling insider. And typically when you present that to people in the industry, they always kill the ideas and go, yeah, we got to dumb that down because like you have to bring the rest of the audience along. That's kind of how I'm feeling about the switch into the sisters. Yes, it would make sense. I worry that like, is that aggressive storytelling for an 8-episode half-hour series? Like this, that seems like a lot.
So we already had one Jedi, which was purposefully enigmatic, and we weren't supposed to be along for the ride of understanding him, but he killed himself over it. Like whatever it is something serious.
Sure.
And I think, and TV is fine with having a big reveal, make somebody, bail. I mean, Rogue joined Magneto against the X-Men in the most recent TV show after like 2 things happened, and that's not normal.
Spoiler.
But
Tough.
Spoiler. Sorry, it's a good show.
All right, so Soul then briefs the Jedi, and then we get Ki-Adi-Mundi in this, and this is a Jedi from the Jedi Council. So I think my discussion in the first podcast that we did covering the Acolyte about Yoda should be in the series because Yoda is a Jedi Master, and they would obviously be liaising with the Jedi Council during this. We got Ki-Adi-Mundi instead. So okay, cool, fine. Like that's that.
And you had him say why not? Like I actually love how they did that. I think that's very clever because they didn't say. There's the thing whenever you have like a Marvel thing of, well, or DC. Whenever you have a DC big thing, where's Superman? He literally can hear us right now because he can hear everyone on Earth. What's he doing that's more important than whatever's here? So you have to kind of explain why he's not there, but you don't always have to be like saying where's Superman every episode. They didn't say, hey, where's Yoda? Let's talk to Yoda. Oh, we can't. Yoda's sick with the flu. But what they said is, we should talk to the Jedi Council, aka Yoda. No, we can't do that. If we do that, they'll have to report it up, and there'll be paper chain, and it'll be terrible. So we just need to handle this internally and not even tell the Jedi Council. And so, good decision, bad decision, nonsense decision. It was at least said in a relatively realistic and subtle way why they don't just call Yoda.
Sure, and there was an escalation point in Mundi, right? There, like when this is getting off the rails, which it is getting off the rails, there's an escalation point of somebody else they're talking to who's come in to try to help them with this situation, and there's an explanation for why they didn't bring Yoda in. I selfishly, as a fan, I'm like, or you could have just had Yoda come in and I would have enjoyed the series a lot more. I mean, I do really like that character and you're telling Star Wars stories. Like that would have been okay with me. I don't know why it's like uncool to bring in somebody from the original trilogy, but hey, that's cool. That's cool.
I have a different thought on that than I said before. And the answer is satisfying or unsatisfying. As a content creator and as an IP owner, all their IP has a certain value that you can wring out a certain amount at a time, but if you overdo it on anything, it's a problem. So for each show, putting as much of the value and IP and stuff into it as you need to, and then saving the rest for next is usually good. Like if the next show is going to be Yoda the show, every show can't be Yoda the show. So they need to like save Yoda so that he stays special, or so they can make an entire show about him. I don't know, cynical or not, it does make sense to parcel out the A-listers, so to speak.
Sure. And you build up Mundi, right? You could continue to tell his story in different parts. I mean, obviously he's in the prequels, but you in the Clone
Isn't
Wars.
He the guy who said? Isn't he the guy who said the Sith have been dead for 1,000 years?
That's it. So we're going to have to figure this one out. This is more of that, which I told you on Twitter. This is more of that high interest credit card storytelling, which is like, which you've been describing, my words for what you've been describing the last couple episodes, which is, yeah, they'll probably describe it later and it'll be awesome. But right now we don't know the answer. Like, okay, well, it seems like now you've picked the one guy who seemed to not know that the Sith were around before. So they're going to have to explain that here in the last 4 episodes somehow.
Yeah, because it seems like they all kind of have an idea that this is Sith, which suggests to me that either the writing is bad, which I do always want to put that. It is possible that they just screwed up or made a bad choice. I don't think that's the case here. That's a very specific choice to have, and I don't think you do that on accident.
He had like 3 lines of dialogue, and that was one of them. You got to think they know it. Yeah.
Right. So either it's that he's an asshole and he's like lying in the prequels or something, which they need to set up real careful, and I don't think I want that to be the case. Or they're going to come out of this, rightly or wrongly, not believing that it is the Sith.
Yes.
Have they used the word? Well, they know that they're studying at least the Sith dogma because they said like peace is a live thing, but you know they're probably not the Sith species. They might not be from the Sith home world. So, you know, are these really like pre-Kylo Ren's, just like poser, emo, hot topic Sith?
They were pretty careful about it. They were pretty careful about not saying it, right? When Vernestra comes in and they're talking, and it's like, well, it could be this, but it could be something more sinister or whatever word they use. Like, they did not use the word Sith there. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think they want you to ask that question.
I feel very confident that in the end, the Jedi Council or the Jedi Junior Council or whatever are going to think that this was not the Sith. And I'm saying that carefully because I'm not actually putting a flag in the sand on whether or not it is the Sith, but at least that it's either not the Sith or the Jedi are ignorant by the end of this or real hard denial. So but that's what I'm saying is going to happen. And they've kind of told us that by using him here.
I think it disrupts enough of Disney canon that they're definitely going to get to a point where at the end of this, the Jedi think it wasn't the Sith, for sure. I agree with that. But this is what I keep saying about like, okay, I'm sure they will get, but it's just so many things that they're punting in the storytelling. And we get back to that, which by the way, sometimes you say things in the pod and I marinate them on for a week, marinate on them for a week. And one of the things that you said that I've been thinking a lot about was your discussion about episodic versus serial storytelling, and that we maybe aren't quite episodic enough, because this was another episode where it was like, there was kind of something that was going along. That May was chasing Karnaka and the Jedi were after, but there's just not a beginning, middle, and end of episode enough for me that I find myself kind of bored during this, because the reveals are clearly being punted to the back half of the season.
So to more clearly define what I mean by episodic and serial, because I'm not even sure if I have a great definition of them. I was giving high praise to things like X-Files and Buffy, where each episode has a thing and there's a big bad for the season or for the entire series. But each episode has a monster of the week or a bottle episode or a substantial, like with an arc, not just many things happen in the greater plot line, but an arc in that where there's a reason for the episode to start at the 0-minute mark and a reason for it to end at the 60-minute mark. And on the other hand, you've got like Dragon Ball Z, which I watched when it was live when I was a kid, and I haven't watched it since, so I don't know if this is great. But what I remember is that not much happened in any specific episode. They were a lot of like very drawn out fight scenes, a lot of recapping what had happened, a lot of telling what was going to happen, and like 3 things would happen, but it only was like leading into the next time episode. And it worked if you liked it enough to keep watching. But if you just watched one episode, you're kind of none of them were very satisfying as far as an arc goes, even if they were fun. I feel like that's what we're doing here, except we don't have 100 episodes that are 20 minutes long. We've got 8, and they feel like, I think you had said this, that they feel like they're cut up almost at random, where they're not cohesive, fun episodes separately. I think I like the story they're telling, and I'm okay having to wait for it. But I said it, I think 2 episodes ago, every episode they keep me waiting, I lose a little bit of my faith that it's going to pay off in a way that I'm going to be satisfied for, that's actually worth it. You know, whether or not it's a good investment, I still think it is, but they're banking a lot on me, you know, thinking Star Wars is a good investment. And they have not really given me sufficient payoff yet, and we're like halfway done, and I would like a little more payoff, or a little bit of speed to pick up, or something. I think this was the weakest episode. Not to, we're in the middle of the recap. Now's not the time to get into that, maybe, but
That's
it
fun.
was the weakest episode. The least happened here.
So the reason I like how you brought that up when you did last week is that you brought it up after I was saying, yeah, well, when you punt all of this sort of like, we're going to ask a bunch of questions, you're not going to get answers till later. I still have to enjoy the episode while you're bringing me along. And then you said, yeah, well, that's kind of how episodic storytelling used to do it, because there would be this monster of the week that would give you that
It was fun.
entertainment value
Something
to keep you in that
unrelated, yeah.
episode. Right. While they build the story. This is building the story, but not giving me anything to watch each individual episode.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a little bit bored over the reunification of Mandalore, which you shouldn't be, the reunification of Mandalore is awesome. But if you're a little bit bored, hey, it's Jack Black. Let's laugh at Jack Black for a little while. It's okay.
Oof,
He'll keep you occupied. I know your
tough.
favorite episode and mine too.
Well, I was just happy that when you were talking about overdoing Yoda, you didn't bring up Baby Yoda and Boba Fett, because I think I think a lot of people would have said that was starting to border on that of, okay, well, it's pretty clear that you know that we like Baby Yoda, so you just threw him in the back half of the story. So
Oh, you mean how he
Vernestra
showed up in
says,
Book of Boba Fett? Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
and for like multiple
Oh,
episodes.
So I'm sharing the Mandalorian with my kids, and they're young, but we figure it's okay. We did definitely do season 2, and then we watched 2 episodes, 1 or 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. We're not watching all of Book of Boba Fett. We're just gonna watch just gonna watch those, and we're gonna go straight to Mandalorian season 3. You can skip that for now.
Slightly different, yeah.
Maybe when you're
so
older.
Soul wants to. Vernestra is mad at Soul because Soul didn't tell her about May's possible survivor. Soul's like, I didn't know. I promise I didn't know, and that remains to be seen. Like many other things in the show, Soul points out that May's objective aren't just her own, and she won't come along. She won't come in to talk to them, to be questioned by the Jedi without kind of offering up something. And so he starts to connect. I can bring Osha with me. I saw her eyes soften, which he explains to Osha later when he revealed to May that Osha was still alive. And that's kind of the carrot on the end of the stick for May to try to get her around so they can ask her some questions about who's training her.
Yeah, makes a good point. Like, yeah, getting a murderer off the street's great, but your end goal is the 8-ball. You can do all the little stuff that you want, but you really want to know who the Sith Lord is.
Kamir is trying to work out the rules of this whole thing, because kill a Jedi without a weapon, it has to be some sort of test, right? And then you use their saber if you can use their saber if you disarm them. So he's kind of having the same conversation that we have. He says you have to kill the Wookiee without a weapon. May's like, don't tell me what I have to do. Hey, but what deal did you make? And he goes, I didn't really make any deal. This guy, whoever is this person, this thing, this entity, this spirit, whatever the hell this thing is that's controlling all of them, that force pushes the whole universe here at the end of this episode, he apparently just has Chimer on some sort of thing. I just have you as a sort of, you're just a servant of mine. That's how he describes it. I think there's more to it.
So I had said earlier, my wife's theory that I poo-pooed at the time as fun but unrealistic, and I'm getting on board that he is the master. Because during this whole exchange, he is a weird combination of really smart and insightful, and really clueless and having no idea what's going on, and really manipulative emotionally, as if he knows her really, really well. That's an odd combination for just a guy who she sometimes does jobs with. Because he seems to kind of be at least pretending to have no idea the answers to these questions. And they're questions you'd expect him to know the answer. He's the one who's telling her to kill without a weapon. You'd think he would have at some point asked these already. So he's acting really dumb, but also seems to know a lot. And very evasive over what his relationship with the guy is. Evasive, but in a way that didn't lead to follow-up questions. So manipulative in his own way. I don't know. With the whole, then he disappeared and then the other guy showed up, that strengthens it. Not totally, because the master could have just been following to watch and then cut the one guy down and then showed up, and Jason Mendoza's off run through the woods on his own right now. But it does seem very plausible that he is actually the master all along.
It does, and this is another moment where I just feel like the writers of the show, if it's going the places that we're thinking it's going to go or suspecting it will go, it just feels kind of like the writers' room is like that Always Sunny meme of like the evidence board. Oh, but then we could switch that guy, and then we could make that guy the actual, like, then we could do another reveal, and then we could pull Scooby-Doo's the mask off at the end of Scooby-Doo, and we could actually see who the villain is. It's like it's just a lot going on. We'll see. Maybe it's less than what we're thinking.
Can we talk about the Witches of Dathomir? I've been dying for somebody to ask me about the Witches of Dathomir. Let's talk about the Witches of Dathomir.
Yeah, Witches of Dathomir. Oh man, you have to kill the Wookiee without a weapon.
Yeah.
May I ask him about what?
Great choice. Yeah, of all the ones to attack without a weapon, you decided the Wookiee was the one you wanted to try to kill without a weapon. Smart, unarmed combat against a Wookiee. Grade A plan.
Wasn't there a comment about that last episode? Like, well, you better kill this one without a weapon because you have to kill the Wookiee next, or something like that. I think that Keimer said that, right?
Something like that, yeah. And the idea of, well, there'll have to be Soul because she's not going to succeed at killing a Wookiee in unarmed combat. So one thing that she said, and so I still think the whole getting their weapon and then using their own lightsaber against them is how it is, and they didn't confirm that, but I think that's what it is. But I did love, because I kind of loved all the stuff with May. I loved when she was talking about the point of attacking them without a weapon, that's how you destroy the Jedi and become an acolyte. She's saying that it's not that you show the Jedi are weak because you can kill them without a weapon. It's that you show that they are frauds and violent and evil by getting them to try to kill you when you are unarmed and then beating them anyway. She says you don't attack an unarmed person. She's not talking about her attacking an unarmed person. The Jedi are all armed. They've got their lightsabers. She's saying the Jedi aren't supposed to attack an unarmed person. That whole attack me with all your strength, she's trying to provoke them into trying to kill her. Because if she can do that while she's unarmed, that undermines their entire creed and nonviolence and everything. And that's how you destroy the Jedi myth, is showing that they actually will just murder unarmed children.
That's, of all the sort of, we're going to game out what they're doing that we've talked about this episode, that's my favorite one that we've talked about. I like that idea.
Yeah.
That you're not going to kill the Jedi by overwhelming the Jedi temple. You're going to kill them through rotting their idea, by killing their perception throughout the universe.
Exactly. And I like it. It makes sense. And she kind of just said it. So now it's not even, I mean, she didn't go into full detail, but she did literally just say it. So I loved that. And that's like the one payoff that they've given me, one answer they kind of explained. They've given me enough to have guesses before. I like this better than my guesses. So this was actually like the highlight of the whole episode for me, which
that's okay. That's all right.
Tells you the episode was weak, but I like this, and I like that a lot, and that makes perfect sense. You know, how do you corrupt an organization or destroy an organization? Is corrupt their ideals and show the world that they are corrupt and weak. Because the thing is, you still got to win. You can't. It's not enough just to get a Jedi to punch you. You then also have to kill them so that you get to tell the story, and they don't.
Right, and it's ultimately like a form of like propaganda, right? Because you're artificially creating the situation so that it happens, and then the goal is to portray it throughout the universe as, well, look, they killed an unarmed person.
So I can see that both ways. You could say that it's propaganda because they're creating this event that wouldn't naturally happen, but they would say that they aren't lying and saying it happened. They're only going to say it once it happens. And so what they're doing is trying to counter the propaganda of Jedi are good and would never do that. If that were true, then it won't happen. We're going to try to see if we can make it happen. And if we do, we've now have I forget the sciencey term, but we have a negative. We have a data point showing that their propaganda was just propaganda and that they were never as good as they said they were. So they would they would think that they are on the side of truth here.
Certainly misleading, because when you tell this story, you're not going to say, well, yeah, we had a multi-month effort to try to figure out a way to get a Jedi to kill one of us unarmed, and then we
kept poking him and playing Hanson, and the first 10 didn't take the bait, but the 11th one snapped after 57 hours of Hanson.
Such a good such a good song. It's such a good pop song. So Soul comes in to talk to Osha. Soul asks Osha to come with him. Soul's pitching the idea. It's a way for May to not get hurt. She's still good in her part of her that loves you. Osha calls May a murderer. So if they're gonna get back together, I mean, there is they definitely have some. Yeah, they're separated here, right? There's some angst between these two, and Soul says, "But she's still your family." Osha agrees. Okay, fantastic.
So I have. Oh, go ahead.
And that's at the end of that scene. And do we want to sing some more, Hanson? I mean, do we know the other tracks on that album, or is it just an Mbop situation?
No, I barely know the words to Mbop.
Well, in as much as there are words to Mbop.
Da ba da da da, hey hey. Oh, but you don't know. No, 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 no.
You know they
no,
still
no.
tour.
Yeah, good for them.
Oh yeah, they're still doing it for sure.
I bet they.
For love
do
of
they
the
do like
game.
do they do like Sweet 16 too? Because look, I'm just
Probably.
saying. Hey, you want the Embers to come to your prom? You can get the Embers because they just love doing shows.
See, that's I don't think that's how this works, right? Because I think that like kids who are 16 have no interest. I think they're doing people who's like 40th birthday parties. That's what they're
Hey,
doing
all I
now,
know is
because
I've
that's the
danced.
generation that grew up with
Hey,
them.
I've danced live to the Embers. That's all I know. So just fine. I living their best lives. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Anything before we move on to the audit?
Yes. So I'm actually befuddled and a little upset, and maybe you can help me feel better about this, because that's your role here to help me, the pessimist. Why did they go back? Why either in universe, which I have an answer for that I don't like or care about, or from the storytelling perspective, which I care a lot more about right now, why did they go back to Coruscant?
They went back to Coruscant to be so. Didn't Soul say he had to? No, Soul talked to Vernestra on the hologram, and Vernestra said, "You have to get your ass back here. You can't keep going."
Yeah. So okay. So he said, "I need to go," and she said, "No, we need to talk more." So they went back, and he said, "I need to go," and she said, "No, we need to talk more." And he says, "I need to go," and she said, "Okay." So that whole trip to Coruscant could have been a hollow email.
So I think we're supposed to be frustrated with Vernestra, right? We're supposed to see her as kind of a hard ass.
Yeah, but they went back, and them going back didn't advance the plot in any way. Every conversation that happened there could have happened.
Placated Vernestra.
Or it was I guess just showing that she throws her weight around or something, but they kind of had already shown that, and they could do that in a video call where she says no, where she says, okay, only if she goes with you. The whole I'm going to leave and I want to leave without saying goodbye. They could have done that on the ship or at the port or anything. The whole, oh, well, we need a tracker. They could have said, we'll have him meet you at Wookiee Land. Like that whole trip back just served no purpose. In universe, that's the reason why the Wookiee died, is because they delayed for days going back to Coruscant just to have a few conversations. There's nothing they needed to turn in or get or anything that couldn't have just been sent directly to rendezvous with them at the Wookiee planet. That served no purpose. It didn't waste a lot of time because most of the conversations probably still needed to happen, but some of them didn't need to happen, and they could have. It didn't add anything. So it was a small cost for zero benefit in the storytelling, and a big cost for no benefit in the in-universe, characters who care about things.
I think the fact that the best I can come up with is you placated Vernestra indicates the validity of your point. Like I don't have much to say. I mean, they got Mundi they got the Mundi in the scene. They did that.
But they could have done that with a video call. I mean,
they certainly could have.
I think
half of his
prequel lines were on video call. He is good at video calls.
You and I are, yeah. I'm with you. So, I don't have much.
So
I don't have much to say here.
So I am going to temporarily put on the biggest optimism. I write scripts for the writers to justify whatever questionable decision they made hat as hard as I can. I might burn through like a week's worth of the hat for this one.
Fire away.
Vernestra is part of it. She is probably not the evil person we've seen, but she is in league with them and has been all along. And so her calling him back for no reason whatsoever was intentionally, specifically a delay so that May would have enough time to get there first. Maybe even specific delay to make them arrive at the same time to orchestrate that. I say that because I can't think of another reason for it to happen and be worth its narrative weight. So if I want to say it's in there for a reason, that's the only reason I can come up with. And that could be cool. I don't think that actually is what happened. And I think it was bad writing. But I tried. I tried real hard.
So at WrestleMania 40, Roman Reigns had been champion for 3.5 years. He'd been champion for 3.5 years. In the modern era, that's a record, Jimmy. Nobody had done that since the 80s, since Hulk Hogan. It was a real big deal. And Cody Rhodes was going to take him down in Philadelphia this year, WrestleMania 40. And we all knew kind of where the booking was going. We all felt that that was coming. So they wanted to make the moment really big. So they had a bunch of interference, meaning a bunch of other people come out to try to help Cody get over this epic mountain to beat Roman Reigns for the first time in 3.5 years. And during that, The Rock came out to help Roman Reigns, right? And The Rock is out there and he's helping him. And then it all cuts to black and The Undertaker's thing is it cuts to black and then he just shows up in the ring. And he's in the ring, he choke slams The Rock. People afterwards were going, well, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s, The Rock and Stone Cold had like a 15-year rivalry. Wouldn't it have made sense for the glass to shatter and Stone Cold to come out then? And there were people online.
I know that too, actually. That's like that. I didn't realize that's the second thing I know. I remember that.
See, relatable wrestling story. And
it would have been relatable. That would have actually, if you had told me that had happened, I would have spent at least 30 seconds thinking, that's really cool, even though I don't follow any wrestling. I love that. I remember the shirts about that fight. People had those in school.
But it didn't happen. Instead, it all went black and The Undertaker came out and he chokeslammed The Rock. And afterwards, people went, well, you know, The Rock one time again in Raw, him and The Undertaker had this thing and it was all really unresolved. And 25 years later, that's why it makes sense for The Undertaker to have been the person. So they were cooking up this whole thing, right? Of, oh, that's kind of like how it made sense for The Undertaker to have been in that position and not Stone Cold. The reality is WWE couldn't get Stone Cold under contract to come do the spot. They wanted Stone Cold to do the spot. He couldn't do the spot. There's a simple answer to it, right? This is my worry for what we're starting to get into with the story, right? I'm not against the idea that maybe Vernestra could be working in league with the Master of May. The problem is then you're also having May and Osha flip here. You're having Keimer actually be the master. It starts to feel a little, well, The Undertaker and The Rock had a moment in 1998 on free television on Monday night, so therefore.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not saying that all these things, or even necessarily any specific of these, are happening. Like that one, I actually came up with in the past while I was saying it, the thing with her, because I was just trying to think, why did they do it? Because I can't think of a reason. Like narratively speaking, I hate it. I didn't notice it at the time. That was actually the only one that afterwards I thought, wait, why did we waste all that time? That was not fun detour or useful or effective storytelling. I try to give the benefit of the doubt that there's a reason, that like the Chekhov's gun idea. Sometimes guns are just left out on Act 1 because I don't know, they thought it looked cool, and then they don't do anything with it. And trying to be genre savvy and trying to give the writers too much credit that they wouldn't have done that unless they X. It can bite you.
So sometimes I get so into the wrestling story, I forget the primary point of why I was bringing it up. Primary point was basically to tie it to the idea that maybe them going back to Coruscant was simply just mediocre writing. Like the simple story is the answer that Stone Cold just didn't sign the contract to come do the spot in WrestleMania 40. And bless you for cooking up a reason why, but it I think in all likelihood it's probably just they didn't think it through.
So I mean, yeah. So at least after the fact, when you're trying to justify, like I actually love hearing that the folks who came up with good reasons for it to be The Undertaker, because the world of every movie and every show is forced by the other things around it, but the end result is the end result. Like, why did in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, why did his face change? Well, his face changed because the main actor died during recording and they couldn't do it all. That is the reason why. but that's not the in-universe reason. It has to be an in-universe reason. And if you're talking about it and you're not getting meta about it, you need to be able to discuss the in-universe reason for it. And
Sure.
so I love that they were able to find a good, plausible, interesting in-universe reason for it that is, as far as I'm concerned, the lore for WWE 40-year anniversary. So
Close enough. Yeah.
Now me doing it on the front end, I'm just spitballing ideas, and yeah, it might just be bad writing. Or in universe is not necessarily bad writing. In universe, yeah, she's a bureaucrat and she's being bureaucratic, and and it caused the badness, and maybe they'll go confront her about how her bureaucracy is the reason that the Wookiee's dead. Maybe I guess that's another thing. Maybe they're really wanting to set it up, showing that the bureaucracy is the reason that she died. I mean, every ship in Star Wars, I think this was a quote from Star Trek, but every ship travels at the speed of plot. It was a famous quote from an actor who was like asked exactly how fast a ship could go, and the answer was speed of plot. If they need to arrive just in time to get there for the battle, they will arrive just in time for the battle. If they need to arrive just in time to have missed the battle, that's how fast a ship can go, and they will just miss it. And that's how fast the ship can go at all times. So, they got to the Wookiee planet at the speed of plot to get there right after May. But I thought May had left like days ago. May should have been way ahead of them, not 10 minutes ahead of them, unless plot device,
man,
bad writing, coincidence, the Force, or maybe this secret lady made it happen on purpose. Or maybe they're setting it up so that they get to be mad at her that the reason he's dead is her delaying.
Yeah, possible. What I like about what you're doing there is that you're doing that with like open eyes. You're like, yeah, I understand that like they probably couldn't get Stone Cold under contract, but there's also a fun in-universe story for why the Undertaker showed up, which continues to make the story fun in a way that getting meta bad it doesn't. As long as you're doing that with eyes wide open and you don't really think like they planned that all along, which can just sound a little silly sometimes when you hear people say that. But if you're saying no, in the universe, here's the explanation, and I like to run with that. Shout out to you. I actually really like that. I'm a big fan of that sort of thought.
Why does all the ship interfaces in Star Wars get so much worse between episodes 3 and 4? Why did technology go backwards? And you can say, truthfully, well, one movie was made in the 80s and the other was made in the future. But to say in universe, well, here's why, because they're the rebellion, so they needed to have cheaper tech, and the Empire was mass producing it, so they had the lore stuff matters. I love it, and I need something plausible, and I don't need every one of those things to be said out loud. I don't even necessarily need it to be said, as long as it's something I can infer or kind of come up with. It needs to be plausible. It needs to have something to make sense as far as why. And in universe, it's plausible. She's just a bureaucrat, and it bit them in the ass this time, and we're supposed to be mad at her. Fine. Narratively, it's unsatisfying, though. So I think unless there's some payoff that I don't really expect, I have wasted too much of our time on it, because I'm quibbling over me saying a tiny waste of time, like maybe 1 minute of screen time for zero benefit. It's not that big a deal, because most of that stuff still need to happen at least by video call. So narratively, it was a very small downside. I just hate seeing a downside with zero upside. It offends me.
Right. It doesn't make sense in his story. Can we talk about Basil for a minute?
I'd love to talk about Basil.
So
Basil of Baker Street. I'm going to think of him forever.
I feel like I've been pretty consistent that I like creatures in Star Wars for the most part. I like this part of it. I like Basil. I'm down. I understand it's a talking otter or whatever. Yord in his I'm just going to outwork everybody bro attitude. Did learn the language because it's harder. Nonetheless, I like this creature. I like that he was in the screen. That made me happy.
In a grading scale where a C is I have no opinion, the otter tracker gets a C+ for me. It worked for me fine, and I don't really care.
Definitely more like a B+ for me.
And that's fine, and I'm so glad. And I've heard from other people who really didn't, and just thought it was kind of annoying and new for the sake of new and just kind of unpleasant. But I'm glad it worked for you, because I'm all about the positivity. If it worked for you and I didn't hate it, then I'm glad it was there, at least for you. I heard people say, like, how is he tracking him when he hasn't been out of the woods in a year? Well, and if his cloth has been, how do they have his smell when he's been on this planet for like 15 years or something? My theory is it's not his cloth; it's just cloth that smells like Wookiee, because he's the only Wookiee on the damn planet, and so it's very easy to find the only Wookiee. I'm sure Wookiees smell very different. I think Han could find the one Wookiee with his nose if he tried to. So I find that very plausible that he was still able to track even after all that time. So Yord Chad Dude Bro Mixon, he's making me not hate him, actually. He's seeming slightly more wise and relatable and caring than before. I'm not, I actually, I didn't tell the screen, don't make me love you. But I was like, don't make me stop hating you, Yord. I don't want to stop hating you. Don't make me do that. Though is his hair stupid, or is it wonderful that I want to like mess it up?
Only you can answer that.
I kind of really want to mess up his hair. I don't want to punch him in the face. He kind of has a punchable face, but yeah, it's okay. I don't want to punch him in the face. I kind of want to mess up his hair, because he spent an hour on it every day to look that intentional, like he didn't try very hard at it.
So I'm simultaneously doing 3 podcasts right now. One of them requires 2 a week. So I'm doing an awful lot of podcasting time, and 2 of them, one Star Wars, one Star Trek. So I've got them both running right now, doing Deep Space Nine, and I'm also doing the Acolyte at the same time. And one of my least favorite things about Star Trek, and I understand this is the Undertaker coming in, and sometimes you just have to create the lore and go with it, is that in Star Trek, like, everybody's a humanoid, basically. It's like, oh, we have another, somebody who's another planet. Let's just put like weird nose on them. Bam, there you go. I kind of like that Star Trek at least gives a token effort to, hey, we're going to give you a genuinely different species. Like, and I mean, in the way that it would probably really work is like, okay, well, this thing's a mist and this thing is a, like, like some unseen presence or like air or something. Like, it could get really nebulous and complicated. So they don't go quite that deep with it, but they do go, they're not all just going to look like humans. I enjoy that.
Have you ever seen the Orville?
No.
Highly recommend it.
Is it the Orville?
I believe so, yes. It's the name of the ship. It is, what if Star Trek, except the people on it were actually like normal people? So still future with no money, and it's, basically Starfleet, and everybody's pretty much good, but they make dick jokes a lot and such.
Nice.
But not just, but it's, I'm underselling it somehow. But they do have one of the officers on the ship who is a giant jelly blob, like who can just giant jelly blob, and I think he's the engineer. Yeah, just a giant jelly blob who can walk around.
The Orville, I got it. That's going on our recommendation list.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of it, though you may be sad. It's currently between seasons. I don't know if a new season will be made, and they haven't resolved everything, so it might just end up being like canceled after 3 seasons. I don't know.
It's always
anyway.
Tough. May wants to rest because she's got to attack a Wookiee. Then Keimer goes off, comes back. He's trapped by May. May is going to do a little bit of a babyface turn here. We discussed this earlier, and we got into this point here. You liked it. I was a little like, oh my God, whiplash here with this thing.
It was that she's sneaky like that. I love it completely, because so I'm apparently not going to get the Sith who like dances to pop music in their apartment and laughs with their friends, but I do love it when they show complicated and gray in the characters. And that's not just that I like seeing Jedi pulled off their high horse. In fact, I talk about that being good sometimes. That's not the thing I'm here for. I'm just okay with it when the Jedi do get pulled down a peg sometimes. Seeing people who are really intentionally in the middle gray Jedi, or who are really disaffected Jedi but still are pro Jedi, or Sith who are redeemed not by, hey, right before I died I did one good thing, but who actually are not wholly evil, and they show that they still have families that they care about, and or something else. I love that. I love that nuance and realism. And yeah, somebody turning on their whole life's revenge thing, you might not think that's realistic, but the idea that she is conflicted, impulsive, and her entire reason for being, basically, the entire her life story, that the Jedi killed my entire family and I'm all alone, because that is her life story, except for what this group of evil Force users have given her, has all been a lie. And she's having to make it all up fast, because if she doesn't, the choices are going to get made for her. So she makes, maybe it's just a snap judgment to do this, but I love it. And she's not a good person necessarily, but fine, turn herself in, try to make things better, find her sister, earn her sister's, that her sister will talk to her again, or try to. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I I don't need everything to be sunshine and rainbows, but it hurts in my gut when you have like tragedy. And so seeing her get there and me realizing this is not going to be allowed to work out. I didn't see exactly what was going to happen until it was happening, but um I knew it couldn't work out that well. You know, the fact
Sure.
that she made that decision,
A little
it
hasty.
would have been a little, well, it would have been a little too perfect, at least for
Sure.
halfway through a season. They weren't playing the music of culmination and climax. So, you know, if things seem great 2 episodes before the finale, you know that nothing's actually great, because it all has to go bad again for something to be worth doing in the ending. Unless you're the Return of the King from Fellowship of the Ring, then you get to have 75 climaxes, and each one's worth it. That's the only exception to the rule.
It is a codified exception to that rule that
It,
does
it, it
work.
is.
Works
It is.
100% of the time, every time. May
Yep.
runs and falls down. Red mist all over. Basil, because Basil is hardworking, great nose, um, absolutely a team player, and the MVP of the episode obviously does find May. I mean, absolutely of his own accord. He works really hard and finds May, and then calls out, and then Yord goes and attacks.
He bails on all the people he's supposed to be guiding, so that they don't know where to go or where he is, and they're not able to help him if he gets into trouble. Great job, Otter.
No, it is a great job. He finds May.
No, no, he doesn't, and
Ins
that's not who he's looking
ins
for.
means
He
ins means.
he doesn't find the person. He almost finds the person he's
No,
looking
he
for
does.
and
He finds it
fails.
perfectly. You didn't catch it, but
Oh, was
he
that her? Was that her shirt he was sniffing? I'm pretty sure that was a
he
Wookiee.
well, no,
Wookiee
he's
poop.
so intelligent that he was able to figure out that the Wookiee was gone. The Wookiee was off the board as a chess piece, and now he needed to find May. He had thought levels above even Jedi Master. Shut up,
I
Basil.
I did love, right before you send your tracker out, who tracks by smell, you sprayed motor oil into his nose so that he wouldn't be able to smell shit for days.
Yeah, well,
I noticed that. Yeah.
that's how good he is. Is that you can't even throw him off his game. You can there's nothing you can do to stop Basil for you can even give him a mission that isn't ultimately needed. And he can still figure out the right mission mid-mission. Shut up, Basil.
All
I would
right.
buy the toy. I'd buy the toy.
I would I would look at you while you bought the toy.
you
That's the most I can give you, man. I don't know what more you want
would
from me.
you would stand off to the side while I check out at the GameStop.
I might
Yeah.
not even look at you judgmentally while you do it. Maybe. No promises.
Uh, and then we get the scene at the end, right, where the master comes up. We sort of slow reveal that it's him, pulls out the lightsaber. All of our, I guess, heroes, the Jedi's at least, pull out their lightsabers. Then there's the big, massive force push, and we get the episode.
So I have 2 things I want to say about this
Yeah,
ending.
give it to me.
The first one, you know how I said that the Wookiee Jedi was the kind of fan service I wanted?
Yep.
And now I've got fan service blue balls.
Oh
Because they
no,
decided,
that's
well, all I'm
tough.
saying, if you're gonna give me fan service, you need to fan service me. And they did not.
Got you right to the edge with a Wookiee Jedi, and then really didn't give you anything other than him cooking, which just did give you a little nostalgia for the Star Wars Holiday Special. So it did have got that one for you.
Oh gosh. It was interesting to see his artwork inside. Lots of twin yin yang, good and evil. Made me think really hard on my theory that I do still hold, that there's some kind of prophecy about twins powerful in the Force who will X, Y, or Z, and the reason they were there in the first place, and the reason why the witches were so secretive. And there's something about that, I think. Um, and actually, I have one interesting theory. Uh, uh, So twins that are powerful in the Force, that are important, that are going to be tempted by the dark side, who have a lineage that does not include a grandfather. I'm just saying, I think the prophecy was actually, I think there's a prophecy about them, but it's actually about Luke and Leia, and everybody's wrong, and everybody is going off a completely truthful but not applied to the situation prophecy, thinking that these are the chosen ones. And we're going to find out at the end that all the prophecies actually do come true for Luke and Leia and don't for these two.
Do you think Kalnaka celebrates Life Day?
Oh yeah, of course he does. Don't you?
Even on that planet, even away from Kashyyyk?
Yes. Why wouldn't he? Life Day's for
Alone?
everybody. Do you not carry the spirit of Life Day in your heart and celebrate Life Day past, Life Day present, and Life Day future?
I just read that the Star Wars holiday special was supposed to be set after episode 9, so way in the future.
But they wanted. Oh, I mean, what? Why?
I don't know. That's just what the internet's telling me, that it was set way in the future, so the assumption is it's after episode 9, sometime after episode 9.
Well, Han Solo is young and alive, and the Empire is still trying to hunt down rebels. So no.
All right. I'll talk to the internet about that. I'll talk to the internet about it.
Somebody's wrong on the internet. We need to fix this problem.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Han Solo is alive. We do get a little Han Solo there, don't we? For like 12 seconds.
I would very much believe that like the writers wanted it to be, but then they realized now we need like the Empire. You know, we need to still tie it in with all the characters and costumes that people like. But I would have bought that they wanted it to be, that was the goal or something. So okay, so that's one thought. That's the one thing of just, yeah. I was really excited about Kalnaka, and that's something that now is not going to pay off. And I'm just going to be, unless they have a lot of flashbacks to give me a lot of Kalnaka, in which case it'll be tragic that I know he's already dead. Then I just don't get what I wanted, which is really disappointing. It doesn't feel good. The other thing, I thought he was going to turn the lightsaber on and kill Osha, because he could have just pointed it 10 degrees to the left and turned it on through her body, which we know is actually merely a flesh wound, perfectly survivable and not a big deal at all.
You're obviously gonna live.
You're totally gonna live. A second knife, deadly. Lightsaber through all of you, take a weekend off, you're fine. But joke aside about that, why does smiley face Magoo, because the mask is like Keith Ledger's Joker in some ways. Why does he want Osha alive? Why do you think he wants? I've got theories. Why do you think he wants Osha alive instead of dead?
So, I will get to your question in just a second. The Star Wars holiday special that is set after episode 9 is the Lego special. The Star Wars Lego holiday special that is set after those events. So I just want to clarify that. Internet still undefeated. So why does he want to keep Osha alive? It's because I don't think he's giving up on whatever plan this is with May. I don't think he didn't push them aside to go kill May. I think he's going to try to re-recruit May. And I would suspect that killing Osha is not a good part, not a good step one in that process.
So my theory, my primary theory is that I've kind of just come up with it, but it makes sense to me that there's some kind of prophecy, basically that if May and Osha are on the same side, that side will win or something. Having both of them would be really good and really important. So I think,
or is the final test for May to kill Osha?
That's my second thought. Yes, that either he wants to recruit them both, and it's like saving Osha for later, or leaving her so that May can confront her. Kind of mirror image of Saul, maybe bringing Osha along in part so that Osha could confront May for Osha's betterment and everything. The idea. Star Wars has a lot of mirror imaging, a lot throughout it in a lot of ways, and it usually works really well, I think. The idea that May and Osha each have a teacher who each think that their pupil needs to confront their sister to come out ahead is interesting, and I kind of like that idea. So that's my two. I was kind of surprised. I expected them to not mortally wound Osha, but to almost fatally wound Osha right there. I was kind of surprised they didn't. So I got to thinking over why, and those are the two I came up with.
So back to the Star Wars holiday. I'm just kidding. I'm done with the holiday special.
So I mean, you don't think Kalnaka can get VR projections in his hut? I think he has the internet.
Can we decide on this podcast that May the 4th is Life Day?
I'm pretty sure that I don't know if that day. I bet there's a day that's Life Day. Actually, I'm not sure. You'd have to Google that.
I think we only need one Star Wars holiday a year. As big a fan as I am, we only need one. Let's make it May the 4th. May the 4th, Life Day.
Return of the 5th. Return of the 6th.
Return of the 5th.
May the 4th is better, but
there's a drinking joke in there somewhere.
Return of the 5th is not too bad.
All right. As you can tell, I was really enamored with this episode. As you can tell, I'm having trouble staying engaged in the story, and I think primarily my reason for that is that I don't care that much about the characters. I don't care about Jackie. I don't care about Yord. I don't care about Kernestra or Vernestra. I don't care about almost anybody, and I don't really care about Osha or May. I care about Sol a little bit, and. So I wonder if that's this series isn't for me. Sometimes, when you're doing this many stories within a universe, they're not all going to be for every person, right? This one might not be for me, and that's okay. Or is it really? Well, it just might be, the time that I got into Star Wars, where I'm at in my life. There could be all kinds of reasons that aren't necessarily the fault of the show that I'm not as into it. Or my question is, do other people feel like there was a lack of investment in character development early on in this series? Am I alone in that, or are other people feeling that too?
So I haven't seen much conversation with that online. I didn't go looking. I rarely do, homework or research or prep really of any sort for really anything in my life. Well, I know you'll do it for me.
I got you.
So I kind of feel the same way as you. Like I care a bit about Sol, but that's mostly that the actor's killing it. Did you know he apparently learned English for this role?
So, I mean, I already like the guy, but that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Anyway,
it almost makes me want to go and upvote it on whatever stupid fan sourcing Rotten Tomatoes IMDb thing, because I don't want him to have learned a language for this role and then see it be like a 40%. We need to get this thing higher for this guy. That's a hell of a commitment to this role in this series.
Yeah. I care about Sol mostly because the actor's killing it. Weirdly, I'm starting to care about Yord, but that is a slow burn. They're not giving it quickly, and I'm 4 episodes in, and I'm only now kind of starting to care about him a little bit. And I don't expect it to go higher than that. I kind of do, more than I thought I would, but not much.
Not a bad looking man. It's got to be physical, because I don't think there's anything in the character that is exciting about him. So it's got to be his hair. It's got to be how he's dressed. It's got to be something physical. It can't be the character.
I mean, he's dead sexy. But that's not the thing. I'm just saying. So actually what it is that clearly Osha was, it's me kind of writing backstory for him a little bit in my own head. But
which you want to do.
Osha knew him since they were kids, and she seemed really surprised that he was so standoffish and wooden. He clearly was always at least a little bit like that, but she was like his wild, empathetic angel on his shoulder, and so without that he became more so, but so full of himself, of everything has to be impeccable, and my hair has to be perfect, and I need to be perfectly clean, and everything's great, but he's still not an asshole, not really, or at least he doesn't want to be. They could make me not hate him, but I'm kind of just a little interested because they've done a little bit of character development with him. Osha's, they've spent a lot of time on her, but I don't feel he's developed and made me care that much. May I care a little bit more about, but kind of just because I wanted to know the mystery.
Osha's so bland. It's such a bland character.
I mean, honestly, after Sol, I probably care next most about Jason Mendoza. And next after him is the Jedi who killed himself, who I think was the king in Game of Thrones, wasn't it? That's the actor. Wasn't he the one who jumped off the roof? Wasn't that Tommen?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It might be Tommen. Yeah, I don't know. When you say King of Game of Thrones, it doesn't really narrow it down. Yeah, it might
You
be
have any
Tommen.
idea how little it narrows it down? No, I mean, I think look, Sean Bean gets killed, and that guy apparently kills himself. And I don't think that's a typecast he wants, but you take the work you can get sometimes.
I'm a little put off by the character Jackie, if you couldn't tell from my earlier snark. Anytime you have I don't know what, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever, who seems to know more than everybody in the entire universe, I'm just like, okay, I mean, I guess that's like kind of like funny or something, but like it's not. This has been done before. The wise child who gives everybody advice and nobody takes it seriously as they should. I'm just bored by it.
Well, how do you know she's 12? Different species are different. I don't know. I don't want to go down that path. I don't know.
Well,
Fine.
Jedi are supposed to be taken in young at this period, right? They talked heavily about that. You start pretty young.
I mean, are you saying Baby Yoda's too old to be trained in the ways of the Jedi? He's 50. Dude's a granddad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got this unassuming young presenting as young girl, precocious presenting as young girl who in the hierarchy of the Jedi is a Padawan, is the lowest, and she's continually sunning the Jedi Knights, sunning the Jedi Masters, knows more than everybody.
So I'm actually glad you said it, because you were a little too subtle. You were a little too British in your humor. I did not realize you were criticizing her. I thought you were just like saying, yeah, she's great and we can move on. But I thought you were like big fan.
Not a big fan.
Was I making it up, or was there a scene where she didn't have her horns? Are her horns part of her head, or is that like a hat? Because I thought there was one episode where she didn't have one scene where she didn't have them. Did I make that up?
Asking the wrong person.
You don't care enough. That's fine. All right, we'll find out. So three things I wanted to say before I forget.
One, we'll wrap up. Go ahead.
The most emotional part of this episode for me, and I mean this unironically, when Osha thought that they were inviting her to be a Jedi again, and then
that
said,
was
no.
Tough, wasn't it? Because
that was heartbreaking.
The actor gave the physical drop down of the shoulders and the that was tough. I agree with you there.
That is the best moment that the Osha actress has done in either of her roles.
Shout out.
And it made me question how much I like Soul, because he had to know and see what we saw, and he punted harder than I've ever seen anyone punt. It made me like him a little less as a character, even if he didn't have anything else he could do. I don't know. So that was heartbreaking, but good and well done. The other thing, what did you think of the flying pill bugs? The flying potato bugs or roly polies?
When they said it's attracted to the light and it ran itself into the lightsaber like a bug zapper, I was like, this is like really bad. Like this is like laughably bad.
So I loved the design of these pill bug things that like stay armored on a tree during the daytime, and like they come out at night, and they are like moths, like carnivorous moths. They're attracted to light and everything. And this is kind of an example that I think will pay off fine. We're going to see those again. But imagine if we didn't. Like a lot of these things where I say, this could be great, I kind of like those bugs. But if we never see them again, then that is such a just stupid 2 minutes of wasted time and attention span. And I trust that they're going to bring those back. It's going to come back. And part of the reason I know they're going to come back is because of the episode name, Day. And what did Jason Mendoza say? He says, we need to get there now because the sun is going down. And those sleeping carnivorous things that are attracted to light, like a moth, pretty clearly nocturnal. I guarantee, I would bet a large amount of money that the next episode's name is going to be Night.
No.
And
go back to guarantee. Guarantee it. Put your name on it.
Am I wrong? Do we already have
no, I just want more.
All right,
more solid pronouncement.
I'm putting the guarantee of my pride on this. The next episode's name, which I don't know, and so it might be out there already, and I'm making a fool of myself. It's Night.
I'll look it up as you go.
Because night just fell, and something was scaring Jason Mendoza about being out at night, and he's the only one who knows this planet. Those bugs come out at night. They're going to be attacked by a lot of them, and they're going to be attracted to lightsabers. So maybe you're going to have to fight unarmed, or maybe you'll just kill a lot of them, but they just keep coming. Because if every tree has 30 of these, and they're in the whole forest, and they're the only light for 100 miles, oh my goodness. It's going to be like, Day of the Dead of just 1,000 things coming to attack you until you pass out from exhaustion. Maybe, I don't know. But that's an example of, I think it's going to pay off. I think it's going to pay off soon. We're going to see more of those. And maybe I'll like how they do it, and maybe I won't. But I'm fine that they spent the time introducing them like they did. But imagine if they never, ever showed up again. That would be the exact thing we're talking about, of lack of payoff and just a wasted thing, and mysteries that don't serve a purpose. And poorly paced episode, poorly paced show. And this was my least favorite of all the episodes. And it's breaking my heart. It's going somewhere that I can't follow.
I'm still trying to find if they have the episode out. I don't think I have the episode name out yet for 5, but we're going to keep a watch on that. I think you're probably right. I think it's also night, but we'll see.
So anyway, that's where I'm at. Where this episode, I can't say it's a 2 or a 10, because I can't imagine it being a 10. It kind of moved things along a little bit, but not much happened. So I'm going to say it's
closer.
Yeah, it's between, for the episode, between a 2 and a 6, depending on how much payoff we get from it.
Yeah, as you can tell, listening to this, I'm pretty low on it. I still love Star Wars. I'm still excited about some of the things Star Wars has in the hopper. I'm so excited for the resolution of the the Tarkin thing, or not Tarkin. I can't believe I'm blanking on the guy's name. Thrawn. Yeah, I've sworn allegiance to him. I can't remember the man's name.
My favorite guy that I know everything about, that I had to teach you about, that guy.
The Thrawn story.
You thought it was a kind of shrimp for a while there. Yeah,
I think we'll still get season 4 of Mandalorian. So there's some fun stuff coming up in the Star Wars universe. I'm excited about the Rey movie. I know a lot of Star Wars fans aren't. I think that could be really good, but this just isn't doing it for me. I don't suspect it will get there, but guess what? You'll all get to find out, because I'll be right back here, same bat time, same bat channel, with Jamie next week to talk about episode 5, probably titled Night, and we will discuss it then, and maybe with Spencer.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm looking forward to it apprehensively. See you all then.
Have a good week.